I call to order this regular meeting of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris this Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. The time is now 5:36 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Here.
Mr. Mancuso, Mr. Mancuso. I think you're muted.
Here.
Ms. Wilson,
Here.
Ms. Olivo-Moore,
Here.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Here. Thank you. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required by law. Specifically, notice of this meeting was emailed to the Daily Record and Morris Newsby on January 6th, 2022, and posted on the Township of Morris website. The agenda and resolutions for the meeting are available on www.morristwp.com under the Agenda Center. Certain portions of this meeting may be closed to the public for the purpose of personnel and/or other matters as outlined in the Sunshine Law. Notice to members of the governing body and township staff: any use of electronic devices during this meeting shall be used solely for the purposes of township business, and any communications are subject to the Open Public Records Act. Madam Clerk, if you could read the closed session resolution in full, please.
Resolution
By
number
title.
50. I'm sorry.
In full or by title?
This resolution.
That's in full.
This resolution we read in full, Mayor.
Got it. Thanks.
Resolution number 59-22, authorizing the governing body to conduct a closed meeting as defined in the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Committee is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Committee wishes to discuss the following: update on Fair Share Housing Center complaint, which falls under attorney-client privilege litigation; Sisters of Charity of St. Elizabeth, which also falls under attorney-client privilege litigation; update on contract negotiations; one personnel matter, and other legal matters. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Morris as follows: that this body shall conduct a closed meeting concerning the above accepted matters, which are exceptions set forth in the said act, and upon which a public disclosure will be made as expeditiously as possible. Said meeting to be held during a recess of this regular meeting at the Municipal Building, 50 Woodland Avenue via Zoom.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll now ask for a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. At this time, we're going to move into closed session and resume with the regular meeting at 7 p.m. Go ahead and open it up.
No.
Go. Just waiting to see attendees come in when we know we're open. Okay. I call to order this regular meeting of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. The time is now 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ravitz,
Here.
Mr. Mancuso,
Here.
Ms. Wilson,
Here.
Ms. Olivo-Moore,
Here.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Here. We will now, if you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. This month's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Committee Member Ravitz.
I'm honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if everyone could please remain standing for a brief moment of silence, that we'd like to recognize this evening for firefighter, former Assistant Fire Chief, Captain, and Navy veteran John Prendergast from the Woodland Hook and Ladder Company. Thank you.
A good man.
Good evening, everyone. First item on our agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes of the February Township Committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
As circulated, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Tonight, we have one proclamation on the agenda and some recognition items on our agenda as well, but we'll first start with the proclamation. Deputy Mayor Wilson offered the following proclamation and will read the same into the record. This proclamation is honoring March 2022 as Women's History Month. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I really love history, and I'm struck by the extent to which omission is a problem in women's history, just as it is with Black history, which we celebrated last month. So I've added a couple of items to this month's proclamation that I never learned myself and that I think are worth remembering. And I will have a couple comments later on in the meeting. Whereas the origins of Women's History Month as a national celebration go back to 1981, when Congress passed Public Law 9728, which established the week beginning March 7th, 1982 as Women's History Week, and then to 1987 when Congress passed Public Law 100-9, designating March as Women's History Month. Whereas, as the Library of Congress reminds us, the goal of Women's History Month is to commemorate and encourage the study, observance, and celebration of the vital role of women in American history. Whereas American women have been leaders, not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and the peace movement, all of which have helped to create a more fair and just society for all. Whereas, despite these contributions, the role of women has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Whereas the study of history reveals such memorable facts about the struggles women have faced, as New Jersey's original 1776 Constitution gave the right to all state residents, including women who owned property. This right applied to single women only. Married women were excluded since their property was legally owned by their husbands. In 1807, this law was changed, limiting the right to vote to white males only. In November 1917, after peacefully demonstrating in front of the White House on behalf of women's right to vote, 33 women were imprisoned and brutally beaten in what became known as the Night of Terror. In 1920, the 19th Amendment giving women the right to vote was ratified. But it was not until 1965, when President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law, that discriminatory tactics used against women of color were outlawed and all women could vote. It was not until 1974, when Congress passed the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, that women were able to get credit cards on their own without requiring a male to co-sign for them. Whereas each year Women's History Month has a theme, and the theme for 2022 is providing healing, promoting hope. Whereas this theme is meant to be a tribute to the work of caregivers and frontline workers during the pandemic, as well as a recognition of the thousands of ways that women of all cultures have provided both healing and hope throughout history. Whereas American women have played and continue to play a critical role, economic, cultural, and social, in every sphere of life in our nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Morris Township Committee supports this year's March 2022 celebration of Women's History Month and encourages our residents of all ages to observe this occasion through activities based in thoughtful, open-minded inquiry and reflection, and sincere efforts to create a world that is more just, peaceful, and equitable for all.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for the third month in a row for so thoughtfully drafting and the proclamation for this evening and eloquently reading it into the record. We appreciate it, and it's obviously such a worthwhile proclamation to read. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Moving next onto our agenda, we do have 2 items for recognition. The first one, again, each month in the township, we try to recognize members of our community who give back and serve others in the community. And tonight we'll be recognizing some high school volunteer students for their efforts in making a difference in the community for our seniors at Morris Mews. And if any of the high school students who were involved could raise their hand in Zoom to be moved over if you want to speak. And I know Kelly Stevens, the director of the Housing Authority, is also here to say a few words if she'd be so kind. But tonight we're recognizing a group of student volunteers who helped make this winter's snowstorms a little bit more tolerable for our seniors living at Morris Mews on Ketch Road. During several of our snowstorms this winter, these volunteers ventured to Morris Mews on snow days to help residents shovel out their cars in the parking lots. While Morris Mews has groundkeepers to plow and shovel most of the areas, residents often have to clean off their cars and shovel to get to their doors. This group of students helped our seniors get to their cars after these storms so they didn't have to brave the elements out on their own. I'd like to thank Melissa Spiota, the school board president, as well as Annalise Rush from our administrator's office for working to organize these students after each winter storm. And also thanks to Kelly Stevens from the Morris County Housing Authority for helping us make this heartwarming initiative happen. Students who volunteered this year, I would like to recognize, included Nicholas Husel, Eric Otiano, Devin Chowdhury, Will Lefebvre, Lindsay O'Brien, and Jordan Solomon. And if I missed anyone, please let us know and we'll send a certificate in the mail. But if Kelly is on, I'd like to offer you an opportunity to say a few words if you'd wish to.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And in addition to the people that you had thanked earlier, I would also like to thank you for spearheading this project as well. And most importantly, I do want to thank the students from Morristown High School for coming out and supporting the seniors at Morris Mews. For anybody that doesn't know, Morris Mews provides, we have 120 units there for low-income seniors. And we do have some with limited mobility. We have some that do get out and are fairly independent, but once a snowstorm falls, everybody is kind of debilitated and scared to go out on their own and get to their cars, as you had mentioned. And we truly appreciate all the help that the students provided, cleaning off the cars, coordinating with the seniors, shoveling around the cars so that they could safely get to their vehicles when the time came. Volunteering is a quality that these students will carry on for the rest of their lives. And it's a true reflection of who they are and giving back to other people that may not be as fortunate or who could use help throughout their lives. These students were responsible, respectful. They worked very hard. They were conscientious. They were compassionate. So while some of us were sitting home in our warm homes, they were out braving the elements, doing all this tedious work, this hard work, I should say. And, as the storms progressed, I think by word of mouth, the number of students just grew and grew. And we really look forward to even continuing the project in years to come. I would just like to end with a quote from Maya Angelou that says, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So I just want to thank all of you, thank the students for being concerned about the tenants at Morris Mews and making them feel important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, for joining us. And as always, for your close relationship with the township, obviously with Morris Mews being in the township, but for being so open with us and being able to collaborate on different things, whether it's business related or related to the residents there or things like this, where we really have an opportunity to help people out. So thank you for everything you do on your end as well. Are there any members of the committee who would like to say a few words or provide any comments?
I would just like to add a special thanks to all the kids who did this. Anybody who's willing to volunteer to shovel snow is, I I like that a lot because it's one of my least favorite activities myself. But it was really helpful and much appreciated, and really appreciate their efforts and their volunteering.
Kelly, thank you so very much for all you do. We appreciate it, one and all. Thank you. Thank you.
This is Bud. I would echo the sentiments of Deputy Mayor and Peter Mancuso, and also add that I know that the high school students that were participating, I know it made them feel good to lend a hand. There's 3 little words. I'm going to steal this from Harlan Ellison on Star Trek, when he said there are 3 words that are more important than I love you, and that is let me help. So kudos to the students and everybody involved. So well done.
Great.
I will just add that those students made those residents in that place more resilient. I helped them bounce back after snowstorms, and helping people be more resilient is what it's all about. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And let's knock wood that they won't have to go back out this season. And we're looking forward to its continued success at the end of next year, or at the beginning of next year. So thank you, Kelly. We'll be in touch. And thank you to all the students again out there who did this, and we'll mail some certificates for you. Next up on our recognition, we have reached a milestone, or we do have a milestone to recognize from one of our dedicated public servants for Morris Township. We have this monthly meeting every month where there's members of the governing body who are here speaking and being recognized, but so often we have public servants that go unrecognized each month, who work diligently day in and day out in their roles. And it's such a privilege to be able to recognize Mark Howarth, who's our superintendent of the sewage department, for his 45 years of public service to Morris Township. And recognize him, I did just want Mark to provide some background for the public who are on, to talk about kind of all the work you've done over the years in Morris Township. Mark started in the township in 1977, and was eventually moved to the sewer department as an operator's helper. You became superintendent in 2000, so you've been the superintendent of the sewer department for a long time, and it's so valuable for the township to have someone who has that kind of knowledge, how these systems and operations work. Because as a lot of us know, the problems don't happen between 9 and 5 on a weekday. The problems happen at night or on the weekends, around the holidays. So I'm sure you've racked up plenty of time in the facilities, having to spend time away from home to deal with them. I did not know that you, and I wish I had, since being in the fire department, that you've been in the Rockaway Borough Fire Department for some time and are a life member with over 25 years of service. You were the fire chief in 2012. And like I said, you're a public servant for Morris Township, but you are also a servant for Rockaway, being on the Zoning Board of Adjustment and on the Land Use Board. And we just learned tonight that he's on the Passaic Valley Sewage Commission too. So 45 years in, and it sounds like you're busier than ever. So on behalf of the Township of Morris, the Township Committee, and I'm sure, all the people I've never met who've worked with you, and the people I know who continue to work with you, thank you so much for all of your dedication for Morris Township. I've only been here for 4 years. It's just a blip on the system for the amount of time you've served here. So thank you for everything you've done. And I will open it up for Mr. Quinn if you wanted to say a few words before I bring it over.
All right, thank you for the, it's my been working with Mark for a long time. He's the most senior employee in the township. I'm not too far behind him, but we've worked a lot of years together. But more importantly, for the last 11 years, Mark and I worked very closely, and he is just a wealth of knowledge when you talk about what takes place to treat the sewage when it comes in. The chemicals are involved, the equipment that's involved, machinery, the pumps, what the process is, and he just makes it happen without any fanfare or anything else. And then, when we have those storms, and we have, the major storms, and we have concerns like Hurricane Irene, we almost lost the Butterworth sewer treatment plant. If it wasn't for Mark, we might have lost that plant. It was underwater. Mark was going in and out of there on a front end loader to get back and forth. And he saved that plant. And, so we followed that up with another hurricane and another nor'easter and a few other major storms over the years. And, Mark has come in and he's been there for sometimes 5-7 days at a time before going home. That's the kind of dedication he does. But whenever, the tough gets going, Mark is right there in the forefront, making sure that the flush and forget program is in full gear. And we don't miss anything. And, we don't make sure that everything is taking place. And then, Mark is also very responsive to our residents too. If they've got a sewer issue at their home, it may be their problem where the clog is in their pipes or whatever, but he's there to help them out and give them guidance and what they need to get done. Or if it's our issue, we're out there, taking care of it right away, making sure the remediation is done. So that's why I said he's not allowed to retire. It's always a pleasure to work with Mark, and he's one of our most valuable employees instead of being one of our most senior employees and the most senior employee. So
Congratulations, Mark.
Congratulations, Mark.
And I will just note, Mark is here in town hall with us, along with his wife Annette and daughter Sky, and he has a son Mark as well. But thank you for being here. Thank you for everything you do. Yeah, and just one last thing, having this type of expertise in-house for a town is crucial, because you always know where to find. We always know where to find you. We always know who we can trust your guidance, and we know you have such institutional knowledge of our systems that you can't buy anywhere else. So, Kathy,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just didn't want you to close out before. I didn't know you were going to be here tonight, and I'm just so glad to see you. As I told you before the meeting, I literally think of you every day. Ever since the tour of the facility, which for me was totally unforgettable. And I wish residents could see what goes on, because we do take it so for granted. It's so vital to our everyday life. And what you do is just, such a contribution to our community, and really, really appreciate it. So thank you for your long service, and thank you for doing it so well. And thanks for being here. It's great to see you.
Should we take a photo?
Yeah.
All right, I got the resolution of a small gift. Thank you very much. You both, do you mind if we take a photo for?
No, I like that.
You want me to take?
Go.
That'd be great. You want to do it up here?
Yeah, we'll do it on slide, and then you can get on camera too.
You brought up, Mark's also a teacher, because he
is.
tours for the high school kids and the college kids to learn all the science that's involved.
He does. I told him if I was still a teacher, I'd be there every year.
We'll double check that, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Take care.
Nice meeting you both.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Guy. Thanks for coming out tonight. Thank you, Mark.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I did want to note too, before we go, as Mr. Howarth and his family depart, there is another recognition in the resolutions tonight for 40 years of service to another township employee who couldn't make us this evening. James Atkins, who is also a full-time operator and helper for the sewer department since 1982. We will recognize him in another forum, but just wanted to recognize him in the minutes too. And we'll be certifying it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so moving on to the next item in tonight's agenda. I would like to note, before we go into the first public commentary period, we have 13 members of the public on right now with us. There were more before, but for full transparency to everyone joining us virtually, we are here in the municipal building. It's myself, our Deputy Mayor Kathy Wilson, our Township Administrator Tim Quinn, our Municipal Attorney Jared Cantor, and our IT Manager Greg Sims. as we have been doing for over 2 years at this point, or 2 years at this point. We are all virtual aside from those in this room. And I will be providing an update on these COVID protocols later in tonight's meeting. So opening it up to the public. There are as I said, currently 13 members joining us on Zoom. At this time, we will open the meeting to public comment on agenda items only. Please state your name and address for the record before speaking. Please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you have questions you would like answered, your remaining time to speak will be yielded back for this purpose. This is, again, as a reminder, agenda items only. General public commentary will come after the evening's business on the agenda at the second portion. So with that, I will open it up. Is there a motion to open the public comment?
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. If Mr. Sims would recognize our first commenters, which I believe we have teed up. And I believe they will be speaking on the Drew Forest resolution.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Could you just state your name and address for the record, please, before you begin your comments?
We can hear
Yeah.
Judy, but we can't see her.
Greg's working on that.
Okay.
We can.
I can start my video on this end if that's helpful.
Yes.
Yes.
That'd be great. And then, yeah, Greg, if you could pin Judy as well as Bethania. And you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mayor, and the committee members for providing us the opportunity to share some of the background which has led to one of the resolutions you're considering tonight. My name is Judy Kroll. I live in Madison, and I'll provide a very brief introduction for anyone who's not familiar with the Friends of the Drew Forest. We are a newly formed New Jersey not-for-profit, all volunteer, and we originally started in April of last year when we came to learn that Drew University in Madison was seeking to sell for development the 53-acre forest that forms a semicircle around the campus. We knew Drew needed an influx of cash, but we were heartbroken to think about losing this very special old growth forest. We came together to advocate for the Drew Forest to be permanently protected as open space through a conservation sale that will strengthen the university and its financial future. Madison's mayor and council passed a resolution in May of last year supporting a conservation solution similar to what you're considering this evening. And we started a petition to gain public support. The petition went live on June 8th, and to date, we have collected more than 11,500 signatures. The petition is both a way to educate the public as well as let local officials, the university, and the press know that this is important to people. People would really like to save this land. So we wanted to show you what 11,500 plus signatures look like, but we didn't want to actually print it all out because we're more interested in saving trees than killing them. So Bethania, if she's on the screen, I can't see her, but if she's there, she's showing what a pile of paper it would take to print out all of the 11,500 signatures. And that's equivalent to 577 pages. So we thought it was important to show you what that actually would look like. We're not obviously going to print that out, but that's what it would look like if we did. And I think it's a pretty impressive stack of paper there. The petition advocates for a market value conservation sale that will be accomplished with a combination of municipal, county, and open space funds, corporate or not-for-profit grants and donations. This creates a win-win solution which will preserve the land for educational and public use, continue its critical role in recharging the Buried Valley Aquifer, which provides drinking water for dozens of municipalities, maintain Drew's reputation as the university in the forest, and provide needed financial funds to the university. One of my colleagues is going to be speaking in a few minutes more about the history and the environmental features of the forest. So I thought I would share what people have told us when they've signed the petition. Many people signed online and left comments. Others we talked to in person at dozens of events we staffed, including weekly farmers markets in Madison, Fish-A-Whack Festival in Chatham. And most recently, we were very happy to be at the winter market hosted at Convent Station in your township. So I pulled out a few comments that were made by Morris Township residents when they signed our petition. And I'll just read a few of them to you. I'm signing because I want to preserve this area. Preserve this land, we need the forest. Old growth forests are essential for climate change remediation. We need forests. We love open space, we love the outdoors, we want green. I want to save this forest. And this one I really like, it's I love trees. And this is my favorite because I love trees, and guess what? Trees love us back. They mitigate heat, flooding, they store carbon, they give back oxygen, they provide peaceful respites for humans and incredibly important habitat for wildlife. Trees really do love us back. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Bethania, for showing us the petition. I believe we're going to move on to, is it Lydia next?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yep.
Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
And Bethania.
Lydia, if you could just
Okay.
state your name and address for the record. for us,
Okay.
please.
My name is Lydia Chambers, and I live at 87 Millbrook Road in New Vernon. And I am chair of the Friends of the Drew Forest Steering Committee. And I'd like to highlight the fact that I don't actually live in Madison. Being a resident of Harding, I still got involved because I felt there was a regional importance to this forest. So thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about the forest tonight. And for, we're looking to build regional support and appreciate that you are considering a resolution tonight. So Judy's touched on a lot of points, but I'll fill in a few things. The Drew Forest dates back to actually before the founding of the university. Daniel Drew purchased the forested land and the historically significant Mead Hall. And so the forest has really been a hallmark of Drew University from the very beginning and ever since. And this forest is unique because it's undergone 15 years of painstaking ecological restoration by students and volunteers. Invasive vines, trees, plants have been removed. A 10-foot deer fencing was installed in 2012 at great expense. And then thousands of native plants, trees, and shrubs were added, and some came back on their own once it was fenced. Work is ongoing, but the results have been really successful, resulting in a healthy native forest understory, which is rare in these parts. You would have to travel as far as the Catskills to find a unique, healthy forest habitat like this. So now we are really focused on building regional support for preservation of the forest because it's an asset of regional significance. Besides the ecological restoration, the forest is an important recharge zone for the Buried Valley Aquifer, as Judy mentioned. Providing an ecosystem service valued at $1.5 million a year. And I'm sure you appreciate that the forest also purifies the air, moderates temperatures, and sequesters carbon that benefits all of us. It has walking trails open to the public, one with a nature guide. So this Drew Forest serves as a migration pathway and a wildlife corridor because it's located immediately adjacent to the Lewanika Brook Preserve and the Giralda Preserve, not far at all from the Great Swamp Wildlife Refuge as well. Needless to say, it's Drew's gem that attracts students, gives them respite, and serves as an inspiring living laboratory that's changed the course of many students' lives. So purchase of this land and preserved open space will support all these ecological benefits, the recreational benefits, the educational benefits, as well as strengthening the university, which has students, professors, 500 employees that support area restaurants, shops, businesses, medical services, and more. It's an economic engine in our area. So this is a win-win-win. So we were very thrilled when Chatham Township and Chatham Borough passed resolutions of support in February. And we just learned that the Parsippany Town Council passed a resolution last night. So including Madison, we're up to 4 towns and Morris Township would make 5. And we hope you will stand with these other towns and support this win-win solution by passing a resolution tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
ma'am.
Lydia. Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much
Lydia.
for joining. And I believe the next hand raised is Mr. Jim Hunt, who will also be speaking on the Drew Forest. So Jim, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Jim Hunt, and 35-year resident of the township before we moved. So proud that the township takes this regional responsibility so seriously. And I was thinking through, I'm also a graduate of Drew. My best friends are graduates of Drew. My wife's a graduate of Drew. I've been part of Drew since 1964 in one way or the other. So it was saddening to hear that the university's financial condition might drive a gem out of our county, out of our region, out of the greater Morris Township, Madison community. And I'm thinking about this also, and why it's important, I think, to the township and to the region. We can say it's just 53 acres, and how much recharge can 53 acres do on the aquifer? Well, that's true, but while it's one of the main ways that Madison can help recharge the aquifer, every time we chip away with development at the recharge of the aquifer, in effect, we're beginning to steal from the future. We need to be able to protect these lands and protect the aquifer. And ever since my children were born, but especially now since my grandchildren were born, I think a lot about what we're leaving to them. And one of the things we can leave them is the preservation of something like the Drew Forest. So thanks so much for the time tonight and for considering this resolution.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
I appreciate it. Bathana, did you want to come back on? I see your hand raised, but I'm not sure.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I didn't make a comment earlier, but my name is Bethania Viana. I live in Brooklyn, but I graduated from Drew in 2017, and I am from Hunterdon County, so I'm a Jersey girl. And in New York now, I do a lot of work that focuses on community. I run a bookstore with some friends that turned into a mutual aid point and does a lot of community work ever since the pandemic started. And we do a lot of work that is in response to our community. And the work that I do now, I honestly probably would have never gotten to it or done it if I had not gone to Drew. Drew's campus is the first place that I really encountered community in both what I was reading and also what I was doing on campus. The campus's environmental spirit is incredibly strong. It's where I made most of my friends. It's the faculty that I saw that was the most, dedicated to the work that they do, as you can see by the history of the restoration on campus and just how involved students and faculty are in this. And to quote the activist and writer Adrienne Marie Brown, everything is connected. The soil needs rain, organic matter, air, worms, and life in order to do what is needed to give and to receive life. Each element is an essential component. Organizing takes humility and selflessness and patience and rhythm, while our ultimate goal of liberation will take many components. I might not be a student at Drew anymore, but being alumni, I still consider myself to be a part of its community and also still a part of, New Jersey's larger community. Myself, as well as other alumni, are horrified and upset by the potential development of the forest, given very little communication with other members of, the Drew community and beyond, meaning Madison residents, neighboring municipalities, and of course, natural wildlife that are not going to have a home, to call home once it's gone. At this point, the proposed sale of the Drew Forest feels like an inadequate response to a financial crisis that I understand a lot of liberal arts, colleges are experiencing throughout the country. But this kind of solution really does forget the more important thing, which is community, again, which I feel like the Friends of the Drew Forest really stresses, and this current coalition building that we are doing through these different resolutions and, continued dialogue is a strong community response that hopefully, we will be able to provide for Drew and provide for the forest in a way that takes into account the benefits that this forest has for all of us and the importance that it has. Right now, there's a stronger community response that can be done because our community is ready and able to provide for Drew and provide for the forest. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethania. Did we get your address for the record? I'm not sure if we have.
Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. Is that good?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I did want to just, we do have the resolution that we'll be voting on. I'd ask that members of the committee would hold their commentary on this till our committee commentary period. And we'll continue moving into the public commentary. I see Donna Griglia has a hand raised, as well as Lee Goldberg. So Greg, we can bring that on and we'll continue the public comment. Mrs. Griglia.
Yes, thank you. My address is 11 Butterworth Drive, Morris Township. I'm actually joining you quickly as the president of the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area. And just wanted to thank you, Mayor, and the Township Committee, and especially Deputy Mayor Kathy Wilson, for recognizing Women's History Month and supporting the contributions of so many women who ensure that our communities thrive. I'm also just going to extend to you all this Sunday, March 20th at 1 o'clock, the League of Women Voters, along with AAUW and the Deltas, we're sponsoring New Jersey Women First at the Morristown Town Hall outside, where we will be honoring women who were first in their fields. Many different fields. Will have a performance there and a poet as well. So again, just wanted to thank you and invite you to attend our celebration.
Thank you so much, Donna. We appreciate it and looking forward to that event.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And thank you for all the work that you do and the League of Women Voters does in the Morristown area, Morris County, and throughout the state and country. Mr. Goldberg.
Hi, good evening. Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road.
Good evening.
Good evening. Question I wanted to ask last month, and since it is an agenda item, that this public commentary is actually an agenda item. So I have a question on the public commentary, because I know, in the format and the way the meetings are administered, the public commentary used to be sort of for folks to be able to schedule to come in and share things that are on their minds that could be on virtually, I believe, any topic. And now I've noticed the departure where it's sort of limited to just agenda items. Is there a rationale for that, or when? I mean, maybe I missed when that switched over, or what sort of, is that a recent change, or is that something that's important to implement for either a legal reason? Or,
Appreciate the question. We switched it in January in an effort, and it's really a trial to streamline our agendas, again, through the business of the Township Committee. If you look through the agendas, a lot of the items have shifted from our previous order of business. And the idea is that if we, before we vote on things, whether they're ordinances or resolutions, we hear from the public specifically on those items to make sure those folks get as much time up front before we do vote on them, and then offering general commentary after the fact, should it not have to do particularly with the agenda items. Like I said, it's a trial run. I think we're all still filling it out. And certainly if there is a specific reason for a person wanting to comment but is unable to join later, I think we would, entertain their ability to speak early on, but we're just trying to make sure we keep some of the comments focused on the agenda before we vote. So they're top of mind for the members of the committee, and then hearing other comments later on in the evening. And it is something that other municipalities do. Like you noted, it is a departure from what we have done in the previous years. We're trying it out, and should the committee feel that they want to go back to that, we certainly will, if there's a consensus on that.
Okay, great. Thank you for that elaboration and clarification. Very helpful. Appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. And I see Mrs. Marlene Memmer.
Marlene Memmer, good evening, everyone. Marlene Memmer, 63 Independence Way. I came in a little late, having some computer problems here, but one of the items that I wanted to ask a question about was the Drew Forest conservation effort. And so I missed what the speakers were saying before on this area. I was just curious where exactly this tract of land is. Is it part of the campus itself or adjacent to it? I'm looking at a map of Madison. I'm trying to figure out where exactly this particular, area is.
Kathy, go ahead.
Marlene, if you go on Luanica, between Madison and Woodland, there's a road off to your left. I believe it's called is it Glen Wild? And you turn left, you turn onto that road and you go to the Drew campus, you turn into the parking lot there and you'll see the biggest part of the forest. And you can also get to the two smaller arboretum type settings on the forest. There's a condo that's on Luanica. There's a driveway that goes in there. If you walk into the driveway, it comes back to it connects with a trail that connects to you can walk to these two arboretum type facilities that are there. And it's quite beautiful and it's a beautiful walk.
You're getting into the campus from Madison Avenue? No, you did not mention Madison Avenue. You said Luanica and yeah, I'll have to research that.
You can drive it. You can drive
Mrs.
it.
Member, we'll get you the details. I'm sure the Drew Forest representatives are chomping at the bit to talk about this, but we'll get you the details and we'll make sure you know where to take a look and go enjoy the forest.
One of their greatest, they have really excellent maps.
Oh, very good.
On their website. Yeah, so look up Friends of the Drew Forest online too, and they may have those resources for you. And we'll connect you with the right people.
Very good. And I'm very glad that we are backing this, this effort. The next thing I wanted to comment on, or is actually to congratulate the newly appointed members of the Senior Advisory Committee. So looking forward to the information we'll be getting from this committee in the future. And I just wanted to thank you for the resolution on the situation in Ukraine. My grandparents immigrated from Poland, and my mother's parents lived with us in their later years. And I remember letters that my grandmother received from her family in Poland and the difficulties they experienced under the Russian regime. So I'm really following the news reports on the actions in Ukraine and sending, I think, which is what the resolution said also, that we're sending all our prayers and our encouragement to the Ukrainian people. And the news reports show that the accompanying, the surrounding countries, Poland, Czech Republic, and some of the other countries are really helping out with the refugee program there and the needs there. And so I hope we have hopefully we could come to a conclusion on this terrible thing. And, my prayers go out to the Ukrainian people. So I just wanted to add that. And the last thing I wanted to do, I wanted to congratulate Mrs. Wilson on her appointment as the new township agent for certification process in the Sustainability Jersey Municipal Certification Program. That is certainly a mouthful. But congratulations.
Yes, it is. Thank
Congratulations. And I see from looking at the resolution last month that you have large shoes to fill. And that is not a reference to the size of your predecessor's feet. I just wanted to add that. So, and that's all I have for tonight. And I want to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marlene. And I'm sure the members of the committee will be commenting on Ukraine. Mr. Ravitz will be introducing that resolution, which he authored. And we'll be talking more about that later on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further hands raised, I will entertain a motion to close the first public comment period.
So
I'll move
moved.
that. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, everyone was involved on that vote. ordinances for introduction. We do have two ordinances for introduction on tonight's agenda. I will state they're related to the budget, and to caveat, while we will provide a brief overview, our full hearing and presentation on the budget will be at the April meeting. Madam Clerk, if you'd please read the title of the first ordinance into the record, please.
Ordinance number 02-22, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank for calendar year 2022.
May I have a motion to approve ordinance number 02-22 on first reading and schedule for a second reading at the regular Township Committee meeting on April 20th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any discussion items or questions from members of the committee before we have a roll call vote? I think we'll probably get into that during our commentary period. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Olivo-Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy,
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 02-22 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, April 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. The next ordinance for introduction on tonight's agenda concerns the funding of the Open Space Trust Fund. Madam Clerk, can you please read the title of ordinance 03-22 into the record?
Ordinance number 03-22, an ordinance amending Article 5, Open Space Committee, Section 9-25, Funding of Open Space Trust Fund of the Code of Ordinances of the Township of Morris.
May I have a motion to approve ordinance 03-22 on first reading and schedule for a second reading at the regular Township Committee meeting on April 20th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Any items of discussion or questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Olivo-Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 03-22 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, April 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Moving on to introduction of the municipal budget for calendar year 2022. Administrator Quinn will provide an overview of the budget and read the resolution language into the record. May I have, and I first have to get a motion to approve the municipal budget?
I'm going
Or
to
you'll do it.
override, and then I'll read what the resolution statement is, and then I'll ask you to have a motion, and then if we have a second on that motion, then a roll.
Okay. I'll turn it over to Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor. Pleased to present the 2022 budget to the Township Committee and to the public. Again, a long process, as we all know, a lot of hard work that went into it by our department heads, our finance committee, and the governing body of pulling it all together. I'm pleased we have another very fiscally responsible budget. We are able to maintain all of the services that we provide to our residents in this budget. This budget is a little bit unique in that we are going to be using the ARP money, the American Recovery Program money this year. And we earmarked it for some very significant purchases or improvements to the township. We are looking at, we have approximately $2.3 million that we received as part of this program. We are looking to purchase fire apparatus, make significant improvements, total reconstruction of the Collinsville playground, is to upgrade our IT infrastructure primarily for meetings so that the public can attend both hybrid, either in person or by Zoom as we're currently doing, but enhancing our ability to do that. And then also that so many meetings are Zoom is creating a special room here in the township where it'll have better equipment for these meetings to participate with voice-active cameras, those kinds of things to make it very interactive for our residents and for our committee members that are on all of our boards and commissions. Going into the budget, we did have some significant concerns coming into 2022, still coming out of COVID. We saw significant increases on pension. These are statutory requirements that we saw an increase of over $200,000 on that. We were also still grappling with swim pool and the revenue coming in from the swim pool. Saw significant increases on our premiums for workers' comp, our liability, and a little bit on our healthcare insurance for our employees. Other challenges we had this year are dealing with our salaries for employees. We have 4 union contracts. They all expired at the end of 2021. We're working through them. We're getting, making a lot of progress there, but trying to determine, what those salary increases will be for 2022, and then also for the next 3 years after that, as part of the process. With all of the challenges we had in doing the 2021 budget, our year-end revenue that we have, what's called fund balance, was not as high as in previous years. We do have a fund balance policy, so we were, $600,000 less that we were able to use for this year's budget for that. Good news on it, though, we did see stabilization on our revenue sources other than the property tax coming back up. One of the big one is the hotel room tax. We're about 75% of where we were back in 2019. We're seeing that coming back, which is a good source of money. And then also our other revenues, we're seeing those come back too. One of the other advantages was the Lennar development and a number of those units coming on and getting the revenue for those units to assist with the budget. And then we saw an additional $24 million in added assessments for properties in the township. Again, significantly giving us another $200,000 that we can use towards the budget. So the revenue was helpful in that way. Overall appropriations are up slightly. Our debt service is down. So we are looking at approximately a 2% tax increase for our residents. It comes out to $4.33 a month for the average homeowner for a home valued at assessed value of approximately $600,000. We're also looking at open space and being able to cover our open space expenses. But more importantly, as that fund is dwindled over the past 12 years, is putting enough money back into that fund. So when opportunities for open space arise, we have the ability to make those purchases. So we recommended going back to our 2009 rate for open space, which is approximately $60 a year on the average homeowner. So I will give a much more detailed overview of the budget, and we'll have the public hearing to answer any questions from our governing body members and the public on April 20th. With that, I'd like to read into the record the resolution. Municipal budget resolution of the Township of Morris, County of Morris for the fiscal year 2022. Be it resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year 2022. Be it further resolved that said budget to be published in the next available edition of the Morris County Daily Record. The governing body of the Township of Morris does hereby approve the introduction of the budget for the year 2022. With that, Mayor, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn, for that overview. And again, we know you'll go into full detail next month, and we'll be providing the materials to the public once that meeting happens. So may I have a motion to approve the 2022 municipal budget?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Olivo-Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. Mr. Quinn.
Notice is hereby given that the public hearing and final consideration by the Mayor and Township Committee on the 2022 budget and the tax resolutions will be held at the regular meeting on April 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Morris Township Municipal Building, 50 Woodland Avenue. To be held via Zoom, at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2022 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons. And I will also advise that on tomorrow morning, the budget document will be posted up on our website and will be available to any member of the public that wishes to pick up a copy of it or have it sent to them.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Moving on to our next agenda items of resolutions. We have 14 other resolutions on tonight's agenda. I request that we vote on resolution number 73-22, condemning the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine separately, and call for a motion to approve all other resolutions by one motion. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and may I have a motion to approve then resolution numbers 60-22 through 72-22?
So
I'll move
moved.
that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Olivo-Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy,
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk, and those who joined us from the Drew Forest, Friends of the Drew Forest. That resolution, because of that, did just pass. And now I will ask committee member Ravitz to read a statement regarding resolution number 73-22 into the record. And I will note that Mr. Ravitz authored this resolution for the committee's consideration.
Thank you, Mayor. For expediency's sake, I will try to just hit the highlights. Anybody wishing to look at the whole resolution, it is on file. So condemning the unprovoked invasion and egregious act of aggression against the sovereign state of Ukraine by the Russian Federation. Whereas Ukraine was the second most populous and powerful of the 15 republics of the former Soviet Union. Whereas following the fall of the Soviet Union, the citizens of Ukraine voted in a national referendum in support of independence. Whereas in the three decades since gaining independence, Ukraine has sought to forge its own path as a sovereign state. Whereas in February 2014, the military of the Russian Federation, without merit or cause, invaded the eastern part of the free and independent country of Ukraine, including the Crimean Peninsula. Whereas the United States, a strategic ally, reacted swiftly to the Russian invasion, condemning the military action in a strong bipartisan fashion, and providing military, humanitarian, and non-military financial assistance, which I believe now exceeds $2 billion. Whereas on September 14, 2014, the House of Representatives adopted House Resolution 726, a resolution supporting the right of the people of Ukraine to freely determine their future. Whereas interference and unprovoked aggression by the Russian Federation, ordered and led by Vladimir Putin, continued unabated. Whereas Vladimir Putin rejected every good faith effort of the United States and its allies and partners made to address the mutual security concerns. And whereas on February 23rd, 2022, the Russian Federation military, at the direction of Vladimir Putin, began a premeditated, brutal assault on the people of Ukraine without provocation, without justification, without necessity, making outlandish, false, and baseless claims that Ukraine was about to invade and launch a war against Russia, and that Ukraine was prepared to use chemical weapons, and that Ukraine had committed genocide and needed to be denazified. And whereas these actions were taken by Vladimir Putin at the very moment that the United Nations Security Council was meeting, whereas the Ukrainian people and its government have shown unwavering bravery in response to unprovoked aggression. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Township Committee of the Township of Morris strongly condemns and opposes the unprovoked invasion and egregious act of aggression against the sovereign state of Ukraine by the Russian Federation, supports the right of the people of the Ukraine to freely determine their future, including their country's relationship with other nations, international organizations, without interference, intimidation, or coercion by other countries, and is committed to promoting democratic values, transparent and accountable government institutions, we stand with over 73,000 Ukrainian American neighbors who live in New Jersey during this time of action, and we support the efforts by the governor and state legislature to prevent state resources from supporting the Russian and Belarusian governments. Those are the highlights. I did skip over a number of words for expediency's sake, but it was my painful experience to have to read this. I'm very sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz, for not only drafting that resolution for our consideration, but reading into the record. I would also like to note to the members of the public that our municipal building is now illuminated in the evenings in blue and yellow in solidarity, not only with with the people of Ukraine during this difficult time, but also with the Ukrainian Americans who live in New Jersey and locally, knowing full well we have a large diaspora of Ukrainian Americans here in Morris County, particularly, right around the corner is the Whippany Ukrainian American Cultural Center. So thank you, Mr. Ravitz. If there's any members of the committee who wish to speak on this resolution now, I can recognize them.
Peter here.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ravitz, I commend you for your words, for your thoughts, and for your emotions. I will have more to say on that during my comments later on, but I couldn't second or be part of any movement since I've been here that I feel more strongly about. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have comments. I can make them now. So I too want to thank Mr. Ravitz for initiating this resolution and compiling so much interesting information about Ukraine's history. The current situation is egregious, it's gut-wrenching, and our hearts go out to the Ukrainian people for the terrible suffering that they're going through right now. At the same time, their spirit, their determination to defend their freedom and independence is incredibly inspiring. It's made me think often of something that Martin Luther King said: there are some things so dear, some things so precious, some things so eternally true that they're worth dying for. That feels to me like what we're witnessing in Ukraine right now, the power that comes when you're motivated by values that are so precious to you that you're willing to die for them. And the bravery and heroism that we're seeing from the Ukrainian people right now is an example that will live on forever.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments?
I just want to say to Bud that I really appreciate that beautifully written resolution, and I will have more comments later.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Tara. Then with that, I'll request a motion to approve resolution number 73-22.
So moved.
I will second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Olivo-Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. On to the consent calendar. We have 3 items on the consent calendar this evening. May I have a motion to approve all items on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Consideration of monthly reports. We have received reports from the fire department, joint court, library, and the tax collector for February 2022, and a report from the police department for January 2022. Can I have a motion to approve the monthly reports, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Claims for payment, list of bills and vouchers. The total amount of bills and vouchers for this meeting is $3,413,540.26. We are also the tax collector, as many know, for the school district, the library, and the county. May I have a motion to approve the list of bills and vouchers?
I'll move that.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call on that, please?
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Olivo-Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. Items received for the record. The following items have been received for tonight's meeting: the 2021 annual report by the Board of Adjustment, the 2021 annual report by the tax collector, 2 corporate tax appeals, and seven residential tax appeals. Next on the agenda are standing committee reports and commentary by the Township Committee. At this time, standing committee reports will be provided with general commentary by each member of the committee. And I will recognize Deputy Mayor Wilson first.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have 2 standing committee reports. First is environment. I'd like to congratulate Brian Morgan, who's taken over as chair. He's off to a great start. There are many active, enthusiastic members of our Environmental Commission. There's a lot of projects percolating and in the works. I'm going to mention just 2 here tonight. One is that they have a native plant sale coming up. Many of our EC members are working hard together with EC members from other towns and together on the Great Swamps upcoming native plant sale. So you can start placing orders on April 1st. I'm told that people should look at the catalog and look at the offerings and consider offering early because things have run out in the past, which is actually a good problem to have. It's popular. And the pickup will be on April 30th at Morristown Town Hall. There's a lot of resources. If you go on the Great Swamp website, there's a lot of resources to support your own background and gardening skill. And there's various webinars that our EC is coordinating with other ECs to sponsor and publicize. So there's a lot of good information kind of centering around this activity. You can find out more in the upcoming newsletter, which should be coming out in a week or 2. Another event I wanted to highlight, our EC is working together with Grow It Green and with ECs from Madison, the Chathams, and Forum Park to sponsor a composter sale, which you can order online starting soon. Pickup will be May 14th. This is another event. There'll be more information about it in the upcoming newsletter. I encourage anybody who has not signed up for the newsletter. This is a really great newsletter. I encourage you to sign up. Go on the EC webpage and you can find the sign up info there. On our Transportation Advisory Committee, the subcommittees are chugging along with their work. We have a Complete Streets subcommittee that's working to create a draft Complete Streets policy. They've developed a timeline for the year ahead, and they're using resources from Sustainable Jersey to guide their efforts. Sustainable Jersey has excellent resources for a lot of the environmental initiatives that we're working on, and Complete Streets is one of them. The biking subcommittee is working to finalize a Low-and-Taka bike loop, which they hope to launch in May or June. The sidewalk committee is researching options for dealing with snow shoveling, a common objection that comes up every time a new sidewalk installation is proposed. Arranging for student volunteers to help out and get community service for their work, just like we saw earlier tonight, is one option of many that the sidewalk committee hopes to identify and expects to identify as they research what other towns have done in response to the same concern. And the website committee is working to build the tax webpage in ways that make it interesting, fun, and informative. Their goal is to make a sort of one-stop shop or one-stop site for all things transportation in Morris Township. It's a work in progress, and special thanks to Nora Santiago, DJ Cornell, and Virginia Murphy for their efforts. On my Township Committee comments, congratulations again to the 2 employees that we honored for their long service, Jim Atkins and Mark Howarth. Their work is just vital to our community and so appreciated. So thank you for that. On our Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, I wanted to extend congratulations to everyone who's being appointed tonight to membership on this committee. I look forward to working with you in the future. On the Drew Forest resolution, a few comments. I wanted to thank the Friends of Drew Forest for joining us tonight. They are doing yeoman's work on behalf of a very worthy cause, getting more than 11,000 petition signatures does not happen easily. It requires a lot of organizational skill and a lot of outreach. I first became aware of their efforts in the early days of our winter farmers market. I saw for myself firsthand how much interest there is in the community in learning about this amazing resource that is so important to all of us and that connects us in so many ways. And I just want to highlight, I find that example of the forest's role in capturing and purifying water for the Buried Valley Aquifer, which supplies drinking water to 13 towns, including ours. I did not know about that and found that quite amazing. This is a really important natural resource. It presents environmental and ecological issues that are a call for us to work together across towns, which is exactly what we're doing. And I'm very happy that we in Morris Township are doing our part, have done our part tonight to show our support for preserving this forest. I did want to make a comment, I have two other topics. One is I wanted to comment briefly on the energy tax receipt resolution number 6122. I pushed for us to pass this resolution, not so much for the legislation it endorses, which looks like it's going to pass anyway, but rather for the excellent summary it provides of a revenue collection practice by our state government that's been going on for years, that is not well known, and that is really outrageous. Just as municipalities collect tax dollars on behalf of the school district, so too the state collects local utility tax dollars on behalf of the municipalities. The problem is the state is not paying the municipalities the full amount they're owed. This would be akin to us collecting money on behalf of the school district, but keeping big chunks of it for ourselves. I believe Mr. Quinn has calculated that over the years, the state has kept more than $11 million in locally generated utility tax revenue from Morris Township alone. Is that correct, Mr. Quinn?
It's actually higher. It's closer to $19 million.
Closer to $19 million. Think about that. I encourage everybody to read this resolution 6122. It's an excellent summary of this situation, and it's a good way to learn about it. My last comment is about Women's History Month. As we celebrate Women's History Month, there's so much food for thought here. My own education included almost no mention of significant challenges women have faced in the past. One example I just want to highlight really stands out to me, property rights. I've been surprised to learn that although women were not united on supporting their own right to vote, one thing they were united on was opposition to the way property rights were handled. In many states for years, women could not legally own property on their own. If they were married, their husband was the legal owner. If their husband died, the legal ownership of the property, for example, their home, did not go to the woman. It went to a male relative, like an uncle or a brother. You can only imagine all the problems this created and why opposition to laws such as this was one issue that virtually all women agreed upon. To me, this is a good reminder of where we've been and how far we've come. And it's also a good reminder as well of omission that is worthy of our attention and reflection. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Committeewoman Olivo-Moore.
Thank you. As you know, I am the chair this year of the Department of Public Works and the Sewer Utility. Public Works and the sewer utility are the foundation and the essence of civilization. Our Department of Public Works and our sewer utility continue to do an excellent job. I want to say a special thank you to James Atkins and Mark Howarth for their amazing service over many decades. They're greatly appreciated. And I'm sure that Mr. Howarth, with all of his various volunteer work, he will find great enjoyment in his years ahead. I mentioned resilience previously when we were talking about young people shoveling after snowstorms. And I am excited to see the new appointees to the Seniors Advisory Committee because they will also be working on resilience in our township for other senior citizens. On the subject of women's history, thank you, Ms. Wilson, for your beautiful proclamation. Someone recently said to me that we should be happy because women now have the vote and women can be CEOs now. Having the vote is the most basic element of civil rights, and our forebears worked incredibly hard to get a constitutional amendment to ensure that basic civil right. Yes, women can be CEOs, but do regular, everyday women have access to the education, employment, and healthcare that they need to support themselves and their families and to contribute to their communities? It is certainly true that women have played and continue to play a critical role in every sphere of life in our nation. Women have been pressing to have the same opportunities as their male counterparts, as well as have their concerns taken seriously. If you are not at the table when decisions are made, the people at the table might think they have taken care of everything. We tend to think of history as the story of great leaders acting during critical moments, leading to great events. When great leaders and great events are the focus, we mostly pay attention to men and their accomplishments, and the women often get left out. Of course, this is not how individual citizens experience history. History is made by all of the people acting in aggregate, influencing each other, creating art, building businesses, having families, and looking after each other in 1,000 ways. Women's history is about how we understand or misunderstand our past so that we may create a better future. Speaking of understanding the past and creating a better future, on the subject of Ukraine, I feel very strongly about this resolution supporting Ukraine. Putin has a certain view of history in which the Viking Kievan Rus of 1,000 years ago is the origin of the Russian state. Therefore, Kiev must be part of Russia, and any Russian speaker in Ukraine must be a Russian. It would be ridiculous for the Prime Minister of Britain to hear that we are English speakers at this meeting right now, and therefore we are in need of being rescued from America, and America must be annexed by Britain. Ukrainians, by contrast, are interested in the future and are creating that future by their courageous actions in the military and in taking care of one another. St. Patrick's Day. I am looking forward to St. Patrick's Day. Last week, some courageous souls completed the St. Patrick's Day 5K in Morris Township during just terrible weather. I salute those people, and I am looking forward to St. Patrick's Day tomorrow and the parade in Morristown this Saturday at noon. Thank you.
Thank you, Committeewoman Olivo-Moore. Committeeman Mancuso.
Thank you very much, sir. I think there were many people too who had the parties, even though the parade was canceled last Saturday. Your comments were very, very well stated, ma'am. Mr. Quinn introduced the budget this year. It was a labor, very intensive labor of love, of putting together something which at some juncture did not seem like it could be done. His work and his efforts, along with Francine DeAngelis, our chief financial officer, entail thousands, not thousands, hundreds of hours, and was done in the most readable, understandable methodology. The mayor and myself contributed and helped to be part of it, but I'm just so proud that we are be able to introduce this budget to Morris Township and its people and keep the tax rate at about a 2% level. I'd like to also congratulate us for putting together, not us, for Kathy and her ideas of putting together this Senior Citizens Committee. It took a while to get it off the ground, but I think it's going to flourish and be a very, very worthwhile thing. I was honored to be invited to St. John the Baptist Ukrainian Church on February 24th with several hundred other people. Experience the horror and anguish of these parishioners who are in contact with their friends and relatives in Ukraine and had no idea or no conception of what the next step was going to be. There were prayers and services and a great sadness about the invasion of this free and independent country, which lasted for almost 2 hours. I could not have been prouder to be as one with these extraordinary people. I'm overwhelmed and appalled by this incredible incursion by Russia into a sovereign nation. We stand with the thousands upon thousands of Ukrainians who live in New Jersey and in the United States as they face this unjust and horrific onslaught. All our thoughts, all our prayers, all our hopes and supports are with you all. You will prevail. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mancuso. Committeeman Ravitz.
Thank you, Mayor. I will try to be brief. My report on infrastructure, work has begun on the township's new digital sign, which will be located at the police station on Woodland Avenue. Old trees that were not thriving have already been taken down to make room for the new sign, and then new ornamental flowering trees will replace them and will be located behind the sign, so visibility won't be impaired. On Parks and Rec, the spring program is being mailed to residents and is also available for viewing on the Parks and Rec website. The renovated Ginty tennis courts will also be reopened for play this spring. Keep an eye open for a date. As soon as we have one, we'll announce it. Pickleball continues to be an incredibly popular activity, and diehard players played throughout the winter, weather permitting. On Parks and Rec, the swim pool memberships are open, and we're already seeing a brisk sign up. As I stated many times last spring, any township resident or family who wants a membership at either pool will be able to swim this year. We expect pool membership revenues to return to or possibly even exceed pre-COVID-19 levels, and that is fantastic. Our goal is to have the operating costs of the pools covered by membership fees, and we're well on track to achieve that. Lastly, not lastly, but on fire, as Tim Quinn had mentioned, we have money in the budget that we're hoping to approve for a new, modern and more versatile fire apparatus. As I mentioned last month, resident and business safety is always a top priority of the governing body. On shared services, we continue to look for another town to take the place of Harding Township on the joint court, and we'll update you more on that as information becomes available. We're also looking to do some shared services with our DPW. Talks are ongoing, but be assured that we are not looking to put anybody out of work. And that's my committee reports. On my commentary, I will say that, good evening and thank you all for your participation in our local community government. National politics gets the spotlight, but it's what we do here locally that has the biggest economic and quality of life impact on our lives. I absolutely believe that we have more in common than can ever divide us. United we stand, and war is hell are two things I want to touch on tonight. I've not seen the nation this united since 9/11. And let's keep in mind how united our nation is at this moment in time against Putin and those that have enabled him. Red state, blue state, young, old, men, women, all colors, all sexual orientations, all of us have sided with the Ukrainian people in this disaster of an unprovoked, unjust war against a sovereign nation. We know there is a battle being fought that is democracy versus autocracy. And except for a few TV personalities, talking heads, and extremist elected officials, we are firmly standing for democracy and know that it must prevail. Many times I've pointed a finger at social media as being the catalyst that has so divided us. And simply put, those who have divided us have profited from that division whether they be domestic or foreign influences. And once again, we are involved in information or propaganda wars. The side that successfully claims the narrative typically can claim broad support. Americans have been victims of the information age propaganda wars since the advent of social media. War news comes at us at a dizzying pace. Let's be sure that what we share on social media is verified or verifiable. Propaganda is designed to appeal to our most primitive emotions, from casualty figures to alleged war crimes that need to be investigated. Vetted news outlets will state that what they are reporting is or cannot be verified at the time of writing. We can all agree that war is hell. It's especially hell on those who are innocent. It absolutely breaks our hearts to see such devastation, suffering, and senseless losses. We are aghast at Putin calling this a special military operation, and when we know it's nonsense. But Americans over the years have also had terms and words repressed, whether it's climate change, gay, other LGBTQ issues, contraception, certain aspects of American history that are under attack in some state schools. It's the same thing, though in the US, we can call such efforts bull. It's all about the narrative. Let's also keep in mind that this is Putin's war. Fingers should only point to him and his enablers, not friends, not families and neighbors who may not share your political opinion. I hope we don't have to apologize to our Russian neighbors here in the USA. We must not other them like we have done to our Asian, Mexican, Central and South American and Muslim friends before them, because they are being targeted for something which they likely neither support nor have any control over. And to be clear, othering is a term that separates people between us and them. Those others, they're not like us. It's wrong. It's wrong because here in the United States and beyond our borders do not live a lesser people. And I'll repeat that because it's incredibly important. Here in the United States and beyond our borders do not live a lesser people. United we stand, and let's keep it that way. Not just against Putin, but keep that in mind when we at home, when we are bombarded with what is, in reality, anti-democracy rhetoric. Let's reject the othering of a demographic group of our friends and neighbors. And keep in mind that disadvantaged people aren't looking for special treatment. They're looking for equal protections under the law. Equal protections for all of us do not infringe upon or diminish the rights of any of us. And finally, let's not marginalize the people who have less political or economic power as some of us now enjoy. Rather, let's face up and stand up to those who continue to profit from division. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. For my committee reports, I'll keep it to the Legislation Standing Committee. It was a busy agenda for this committee, but as folks, the public know, each standing committee is made up of 2 members of the Township Committee, but that doesn't mean we can't collaborate on items that fall under our jurisdiction. And as a committee, we are a team. And tonight, the team was made up of Deputy Mayor Wilson with the Women's History Month resolution, Committeeman Ravitz for the Ukraine resolution, and as well as with input from other members of the committee. We also had the Drew Forest resolution that Deputy Mayor Wilson also pushed forward, and we appreciate. And it's that type of collaboration that's so important and allows us to be so effective when coming up with our agendas. So thank you for your work. On Ukraine, as I will echo all the comments, we've gone through them in detail, but I just would say again that the township stands with with Ukraine, the people of Ukraine. We stand with the Ukrainian Americans who not only live in Morris Township, but Morris County and the surrounding area. And again, the municipal building is illuminated in blue and yellow now and will be for some time. to show our support and solidarity. On the Drew Forest resolution, I did want to highlight it a bit more and thank the Friends of the Drew Forest for joining us. This mature forest is an ecologically significant area, not just for Madison, but for the surrounding communities. Morris Township has similar areas that are so important, and I think that's why it resonates so much, not only with this committee, but with the members of the public. It's just a short walk from Lewanika and Morris Township. The Drew Forest provides an expanded refuge for wildlife and residents alike, and preserving natural habitats such as this is critical for not only supporting our local ecosystem, but supporting the needs and wants of our residents in the future. We fully support Madison in their efforts to preserve this forest and urge not only the county, but also the state and to support their efforts and implore the university to give conservation a chance. Earlier in the evening, Mr. Quinn read in detail about our budget introduction, and we'll go into further detail next month. But I did just want to provide some highlights, and I might be a bit repetitive, but it is important. So I did want to thank Committeeman Mancuso, the chair of the Finance Committee that I serve on with, as well as Administrator Quinn and our CFO Francine DeAngelis for all of their hard work in preparing this year's budget, which we introduced. And as I said, we'll go into further detail in April. The township's prudent planning when handling our finances have without a doubt lessened the burden our municipality has seen in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Morris Township has weathered the financial storm as a result of the pandemic with decreased revenues and increased expenses that we saw, but we're not completely out of the woods yet. The financial challenges that we saw from the pandemic have forced many towns like ours to cancel or delay critical capital investments to lessen the burden on our taxpayers. Fortunately, as Mr. Quinn noted, federal funds we are receiving through the American Rescue Plan will allow us to catch back up on projects that will prepare our town for the future without the burden of borrowing money or going out to bond. We will go through these investments in detail at the April meeting. Recently, there has been renewed vigor in Trenton discussing property tax relief, a worthwhile cause that will help municipalities across the state become more affordable for young families and retirees alike. As Deputy Mayor Wilson noted, one way state lawmakers could make a noticeable impact in reducing property taxes would be restoring energy tax receipts for municipalities like ours. As Deputy Mayor mentioned, energy tax receipts are taxes on the public utilities like Verizon and JCP&L for their use in the right-of-ways, whether it's utility poles or equipment. Like we said before, we haven't seen these funds since 2008. Approximately 18 million have been diverted from Morris Township, 14 billion across the state for other municipalities. This deficit of 18 million could have been used by Morris Township over the years to invest in infrastructure, to expand services, to be better prepared for pandemics, and to reduce our liabilities. This is a direct way Trenton can make a difference in easing residents' property tax burdens. And we urge lawmakers in the Assembly to take on the efforts from the State Senate to go ahead and pass Senate Bill 330. As I stated earlier in the evening, we are still in a virtual environment. However, with the rate of transmissions from COVID coming down, we recognize it's time for Morris Township to begin relaxing some of our protocols, particularly in the municipal facilities. In consultation with the health department, starting March 28th, the municipal building will be relaxing protocols. Specifically, we will be no longer requiring masks in public spaces, but encourage those who feel the need to do so. We'll be reopening the senior room while requiring visiting seniors to sign a sign-in sheet before coming in. We'll be welcoming residents for their business in the main floor of the building, which will provide some more space for a reception area to not only drop off bills or pick up permits, but to wait for appointments and visit specific departments. With this change in guidance on the front of the Township's committee mind, on the front of the Township Committee's minds is restoring in-person public meetings. Hybrid meetings are no longer an option for public meetings. They're a requirement. We cannot ignore the fact that when this body does return to the dais and the members of the public join us here in Town Hall, we'll need to have the technology to adequately support participation from members of the body, professionals, guests, or members of the public to join remotely and actively participate. Returning to our committee room without adequate technology installed risks our meetings becoming disruptive, having to be renoticed if there's a technology failure, or being poorly run. Having those types of disruption aren't good for anyone. So our IT department is making plans to upgrade our IT equipment here in our conference room and in the Township Committee room. We have budgeted significant resources through the American Rescue Plan to upgrade our IT equipment here, and we're looking forward to installing them in the coming weeks or months to then have adequate equipment to facilitate hybrid meetings for those who either want to come in person, but also for those who want to join us online. Lastly, at the beginning of the meeting, we had a moment of silence for a recently deceased firefighter of Woodland Hook and Ladder Company, John Prendergast. John spent over 52 years as an active member of Woodland Hook and Ladder Company. Members of his family were founding members of the company. He served as an assistant fire chief, a captain, and he was a veteran of the Navy. Service for John Prendergast will be at Doyle Funeral Home tomorrow as a wake from 4 to 8 p.m. and the fireman's service will be at 7 p.m. With that, I will, next on our agenda, see that we'll open to the second public comment portion. If there, and following protocol, we do have 10 members of the public still on with us on Zoom. And this public comment portion will be for general commentary. Please state your name and address for the record before speaking. Please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you have a question you would like answered, your remaining time to speak will be yielded back for this purpose. Is there a motion to open the public comment?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I see we have Victoria with her hand raised. Victoria, if you could say your full name and address to the record, please.
Yes. Hi, everyone. It's Vicki Bargu, 11 Mark Twain, Morris Township. Thank you. This is the first time I've actually joined a meeting. This is really quite exciting. You all are doing amazing work. So thank you for this opportunity. One of the things I wanted to bring to the committee is really noise. Many people are still working from home. Many of us have now become virtual. I live on Mark Twain, and I think 2 days ago from 9 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it was nonstop with blowers and machines with lawns. This is really disturbing, not necessarily the grass cutters, but the leaf blowers. So I wanted to see if it's something that the committee would be open to potentially limiting leaf blowing to a day or two, or really discussing the opportunity of shifting electric blowers. Many people that work at home are part of corporations. I'm an economist by training. There's something called presenteeism and absenteeism. So I am working, but the amount of productivity that is allowable during the day with all that noise is really quite disturbing and reducing productivity. We own a company which brings dollars in for Morris Township, and it's very difficult to be doing proper work, proper consultation, and really getting off mute and having a conversation with clients around the US and globally with the amount of noise that we're dealing with. So I don't know if it's something that the committee can really review, but it is something that is really quite disturbing, at least in the neighborhood that I live in. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Vicki, for joining us. I will say, I know it has been brought up before. There are other municipalities that have entertained it or passed it. I do know there is a challenge when it comes to enforcement, particularly with the fact that a lot of the landscaping companies, it'd be a significant challenge for them to schedule service to township residents on particular dates, especially as they get into the fall and they get backed up. But I'm not sure if our administrator or municipal attorney have any comments on that.
It's more than the noise too, Mayor Mark. It's also the impact on the environment as well. And I can't tell you if I'm happy to record a day in my neighborhood and you all will be disturbed.
And I appreciate it. And I know full well the gas powered blowers are probably I know for a fact that they're one of the most, types of lawn equipment that produce the most pollution and smog. So, but Mr. Cantor, if you had any comments, if you have any experience dealing with it in other towns.
Yeah, so Mayor, I just say while she was talking, I was trying to quickly check the code, look at the restrictions on the leaf blowers, but I didn't find it yet, but go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Queen.
No, if you want to finish, I can.
No, I was going to say that, I have seen, a greater limitation on the blowers, and obviously it's up to the governing body to look at it, but I will say the issue is landscapers have threatened to leave the township or increase prices due to it, but it's obviously something other municipalities have looked at, and I'm happy, to work with you and Mr. Quinn and the governing body to further look at it.
It does fall on our noise ordinance for construction activities, so it's not standalone by itself. So in most construction, the industry starts at 7 a.m., which our ordinance does, and there is some limits. It's got to be at 6 o'clock or dark, and it's not permitted on Sundays by commercial. If a homeowner wanted to do it on Sunday, they're permitted to, but a commercial landscaper is not permitted on Sundays, but they can work Monday through Saturday. And our ordinance basically follows the 7 a.m. start time. That is the standard for construction, but leaf blower is going to take it out of that. We'd have to probably separate that out of the ordinance and change the times on it. But as you said, it's challenging because there are 6,800 residents in Morris Township, and a high number of them do utilize landscapers to do the landscaping. And there's several large properties that would be very expensive if they had to hand rake those properties. But it's used all the time, and it's not just the fall, it's also spring cleanups, and then they're doing the driveways and the walkways and that kind of thing when they're leaving to make sure everything is pristine before they move on to the next job.
Yeah.
And oftentimes one landscaper may have 4 or 5 different properties in one neighborhood, so it's not like they're there for 45 minutes. They may be there for 2 or 3 hours at a time.
Yep.
So I'm happy to do a survey of surrounding towns and see what
Yeah.
their leaf blower timing is and see if we're consistent.
That would be a good idea. I know this has been discussed by EC members, and there's discussion of different options, timing, limitations on what month, how long. There's various options that different towns have looked at. And I just want to say also, I identify with Vicky's complaint because this exact thing happened to me yesterday. I had a Zoom meeting at a certain time, and the leaf blower came right before the Zoom meeting started and left right after it ended. And it was very, very noticeable.
It's horrible.
One nearby municipality had it, and they reinstituted it. They had the ban, and they recently reinstituted it because I think of concerns from residents.
Yeah, I can say I was in a municipality and they were talking about going all electric, and the general consensus was it can't be done because the landscapers just don't have enough.
That's what I've heard.
The landscapers say the technology is not there for fully battery operated for the large commercial.
I'll speak to that other administrators.
Maybe we don't do electric, but is there a way? Maybe we don't do electric, but maybe limit it to at least 3 days a week or something like that. Because then people that are working from home, if there's an important meeting, we can coordinate it on those days. We really have to think more of the people working from home and make it more friendly. And I think there could be a wonderful compromise, even if we don't go electric. Do we really need to blow leaves from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. constantly every single day from Monday through Saturday? I don't know. Is that really that's just too much. And if you come to our neighborhood, you will hear it from Monday through Saturday from 9 to 5. It is unbelievable. And come April, 15th, it will be every single day until September. It's too much. We really need to start considering.
I really do.
Yeah, it's horrible. So maybe not electric, but maybe there's something else. Maybe it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I know we have 6,800 people, but do we really need to blow grass every week? I know that's a decrease in income for our folks, but there has to be some kind of compromise somewhere. So I'll stop speaking. As you can tell, I've been on many calls this week in which it was quite disturbed. So it's very dear to my heart this week. Apologies. Thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate you joining. Yeah, thank you for joining and providing your thoughts. I know Mr. Ravitz had proposed, banning the sale of gas-powered blowers, but we don't have any retail establishments that in fact sell leaf blowers to our knowledge. But it has come up. I work from home as well, and in a neighborhood with a lot of trees and plenty of leaves. And, the challenge is everyone's on different schedules, whether you're a homeowner yourself trying to do the leaves or you're hiring someone and they're backed up on a different schedule. So there's a lot of different challenges, but we'll certainly discuss it further. I see Mr. Goldberg's hand is raised.
He's unmuted.
Mr. Goldberg, are you there?
Yes, I am. Am I audible?
Yep, you're good. If you just say your name again and address for the record, please.
Sure. Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. Thanks for the opportunity to ask just a few brief questions. Mr. Quinn had brought up earlier the Lennar tract, which actually triggered a question I had about, I believe there's an apartment building that's being constructed and the exterior construction is completed. I'm sure they've made a lot of progress on the interior, but are there actually folks living there at this point? Is that fully occupied or is that still under construction?
It's the low income building. It is not occupied.
Is it ready for occupation? I mean, that's not, okay. Is there an anticipated time when, has the developer indicated when that might be complete and ready?
I anticipate in the next 30 days.
Next 30 days? Okay, thank you for that update. And then as, anyone who's driven up Hanover Road has seen sort of the intensity of the density of the commercial buildings that are going in there. Is there any guidance from the developer, whether that's 3 more months of construction or year end, any guidance or insight as to when that's expected to be completed?
I think it was the fall.
It's a long time.
Yeah, I think it's the fall of this year was their anticipated timeline due to supply chain issues and things like that. I wouldn't be shocked if it's later than that.
And not all the building it's going to be.
Yeah, and then they're not done building them. And
So, yeah,
I'll remind the public that that was a project that this committee inherited.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, they seem to be moving pretty quickly with the exterior stuff. So, from just a layperson's perspective, it's like, oh, wow, this will be up and running in 3 months, but I guess maybe that's not the case. So thank you for that update. And then 2 questions on the former Honeywell tract. I know the township had acquired 4 acres there, and there's a design plan for a potential field there at some point, as well as the conversion of the carriage house into use for the rec department. Is there money budgeted for that in the upcoming year? Would we expect progress on that this year? Any insight as to when we might see any work commence there?
Not
on the
this
field or the carriage?
Maybe have some on the field, but nothing for the building.
Nothing for the building, but maybe something on the field?
We're already working on it.
Oh.
Yeah, they're doing work on the field, and I also believe there's going to be trees planted too by Hovnanian that are overdue, and those will be going in as well. Those are, as you know, and you'll learn in the budget, there's a lot of priorities, and some things have to be on adjusted timelines.
Sure. Okay. Very good. Thank you for the updates. Appreciate the time, and thanks for the updates on the budget and continuing to run the township efficiently, conservatively on behalf of all of us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. Appreciate it. Seeing no further hands raised, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that leaves us to the end of the agenda. Adjournment is now in order. It is 8:50 p.m. And can I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move
So
that.
moved, sir.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Our next township committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. via Zoom with closed session at 5 p.m. Thank you to all who joined us this evening, and a reminder that we will have our budget presentation and public hearing next month. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Good night.
everybody. Good night.
Thank you.